We want to show off the size of our forearm. That's our pride, right?
Okay. I was wondering, because you think of normally like the big fighters, they do this, and you guys are all interesting.
So like the way we flex, it's like if the camera's here, like I want to like make it look pregnant.
Oh my God, it does though. If your wrist has issues in arm wrestling, you're kind of...
Well, we're also lucky. I always say this too. Most of us have two arms.
So it's a very good point. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Are you like ambidextrous? Or?
Yeah, sure. Like, so if one arm is down, go full send on the other. That's what I have done my entire, for 18 years. I've struggled to recruit women into the sport.
Okay.
That's a whole different subject though. It's like pulling teeth. I think just the culture is so different here from where I'm from in Europe. You're taught from a young age that it's cool to be a strong woman. It's encouraged, to where here you see the stay-at-home moms. Nothing wrong with that, but you're like,
it's just different.
But they expect to be provided, and it's just the culture. They're not taught to strain. I even see like if a woman comes to practice and I'm like, okay, I need you to like full force, take a deep breath, and I want you to hit as hard as you can. And they can't even do that. And something is blocking them from like, I don't know if they're
tapping in.
They're worried of how they're looking, or the nervous system is not connected from mind to muscle, how to like really go
like
to,
grind
fight
through it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when it gets hard, you don't stop. You keep pushing, because that's what's going to make you stronger.
Do I really have to do cardio?
No. How do I know if I'm overtrained?
Ready?
Should I cut weight in this competition? How much protein am I supposed to always?
Is it ironic that a podcast about Strongman is hosted by a woman?
I think that's kind of the point.
This week's episode was brought to you by Strongman Institute and our newest sponsor, Strong IV. Strong IV is a nurse-led, athlete-focused hydration company with one goal: help every athlete compete at their best. Now, whether it's learning how to manage electrolytes during training cycles, getting strength back after a weight cut, which I have personally done, or giving your body the tools it needs to recover quickly between events. Recovery doesn't need to be complicated, but it should be consistent. Thank you, Strong IV, for your support. Everyone, highly recommend checking them out on Instagram. They have not only great tips on how to manage your hydration, but you can also see where they're going to be next. And if you're lucky, it'll be at your next competition. Welcome back to Lift and Load. There's a very good chance many of you remember some point in your life where you and another friend went head-to-head and had an arm wrestling competition to see who was the strongest. Did you know that you are actually practicing for what is quickly becoming one of the fastest growing crossovers between strength sports and fight sports today? And I know nothing about it. So we bring Sarah Backman this week, who is an 8-time world champion arm wrestler, who not only is growing the sport from where she is in Florida, but all the way back home from her in Sweden. So with that, get ready, because this is a good one. It's time to lock in, lift heavy, load up, because her arms are way bigger than yours. Hello, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
So for those of you who are just joining us, I'm here with Sarah Backman, who is a 8-time world champion arm wrestler, which I have recently found to be the coolest thing ever. I don't even know how to begin introducing what the sport of arm wrestling is. So please tell me about you. How do you get into the sport? What does it take to be a world champion arm wrestler? Like, give me the download, because I think it's cool, and I think I missed out in life not doing this.
Right. Okay. Yeah, sure. So I was born in Sweden, and all my life, in my childhood, I was an overweight kid. I didn't have any guidance, really. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. An outsider, so to speak. And when I was 14, there was an arm wrestling tournament in my school, in my high school.
In Sweden?
Yeah, in Sweden, yeah. And I was this, again, overweight kid, had no friends, bullied. And I won this tournament in school that was held in the cafeteria. So the teacher that put this on, he said that you can do this. You can do this professionally. This is an actual sport. And I believe in you. I think you can be really good. So this was the first person in my life up to this point that believed in me. And that made all the difference.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
yeah.
a good teacher
yeah.
right there.
Yeah. So like he saw me and he believed in me. And we looked up like a local team in Stockholm. And I remember the date. It was a Sunday, November 19, 2006. I went there with my mom. And I remember walking into this team or this club. And the girls were climbing ropes, like beautiful blonde girls, big arms, climbing ropes. They were training. And I was so like...
A Swedish arm wrestling team. I'm trying to process.
Yeah.
You probably look like a bunch of Vikings running around.
It was for real. But I was so like scared, intimidated, but also extremely like in awe.
Yeah.
It was like the coolest thing. But I also want to back up a little bit because this teacher also told me that there's a current world champion that lives in the north part of Sweden that's called the Solitude.
Okay.
Yeah. And in this little village, they're all related to each other. So like all the cousins, all the grandmothers, like everyone like lives in this village and they all arm wrestle. And they're all world champions. And they had made a movie, right?
I was about to say, I think you're talking about Marvel. Like you're actually quoting a superhero movie right now.
No, it's a real thing. But this main girl, Heidi Anderson, she made a movie that had came out 2 years prior. And when I watched this movie, I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I want to be like her. I want to be the best in the world in arm wrestling. And that was just me, like an amateur arm wrestling on a table in the cafeteria in school, not knowing anything.
Yeah.
But then when I went to that club, they really greeted me. Like they were awesome and they babied me the same way I now baby a beginner, because that's very important. Because if they had an attitude, I would have been scared and never come back. But they really like took their time with me, and they met me where I was at, and like they're friends still to this day.
Oh my
right?
gosh, they become mentors.
Yes,
I'm sure.
yes,
yeah.
But just the fact that there were so many women there, it's the same thing. Maybe if it was just men, maybe I would have been like, maybe not my thing, right? But I was shown that this could be done for women, and they told me right away, like, all right, yeah, you're super, super strong. And I just left that practice feeling different. I knew that this is it. This is my calling. And I was only 14 years old, but like I knew that this is my thing. Like I felt it in my soul. Like it was deep.
So incredible, like finding your thing at 14.
Yeah, and like because I had been searching, you know.
Oh, aren't we all?
Yeah. But like also so young, and how it was so definite. Like it was just like God speaking to me, right? And I became obsessed. Like obsessed. I just studied it, whatever I could find at the time. Like internet wasn't that big. Facebook had this was in 2006, right? So like Facebook hadn't even started yet, I guess. Yeah, but whatever I could find, I watched a documentary about that girl, Heidi Anderson, over and over and over. I couldn't wait to go back to practice, which was twice a week, every Thursday and Sunday, and I never missed a practice. Never, not once.
That's amazing.
Yeah, like I was not gonna waste any time, right? And of course, there's people within the team that would like help me, told me how to train, and I started as a very overweight girl, and I quickly got rid of all the weight just because I started training.
So that's interesting, because when I think of arm wrestling, I don't think, I mean, I'm looking at you and you are gorgeous and jacked and all of the things, but I wouldn't have thought of that as an arm wrestler, to be honest. Right? Because there's some kind of, and I say that and I do strongman. So it's same side of the coin. But what does training look like for it then? Yeah.
So in arm wrestling, it's a full body movement. We stand up by an arm wrestling table, right? And even though it's called arm wrestling, we actually incorporate our entire body. So we stand up, but what's most important is your hand and wrist. That's number one. Arm strength, back strength, and like chest and shoulder to keep everything intact.
Right.
But you want to apply like back pressure, side pressure. But if you don't have it up here, like you're only as strong as your weakest link.
Yeah.
So like you can be super strong everywhere. Like you can be a strong bench presser, but if you don't have this part,
the wrist,
you won't be able to like complete the move.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So just figuring out along the way, there was no program or anything. It was just my own research and what people told me, and the obsession, and just when I discovered the gym too, like how I truly enjoy the act of working out.
Yeah.
Like I belong in the gym. It's my second home. Like, you know, so I just love the act of working out. I love how it feels. I love how I feel afterwards.
Yeah. And then how did you go from arm wrestling class in Sweden to now in the US? You own a gym, which I would love for you to talk about. I actually, the way that I'll pause for a second, because the way I got introduced to you, or the concept of you, was at a fitness expo. And I didn't even tell you this. So I was at the Strongman Institute booth, and we were doing a Dinny challenge, which is, the single arm carry. I talked about this in previous episodes with Charisse. It sucks. It's terrible. I'm pretty sure you want it, but that's irrelevant later on. And so I had a girl come up who she was young. She was like, I'm here for the arm wrestling. And I was like, okay, cool. Like there's arm wrestling here. There was jujitsu, there was arm wrestling, there was strongman. There's all these things at the expo. And she's like, I've got a world champion later I'm going against. I'm like, okay. She's like, her name's Sarah B. Do you know Sarah B? And I'm like, I have no idea who Sarah B is. And I'm like, I didn't know arm wrestling existed until 3 seconds ago. And she's like, okay, let me show you how to arm wrestle. And it was myself and DJ with Strongman Institute. We went, and I right then realized that I didn't have the wrist part down. And then long story short, DJ beats me. It's fine. And then later she comes back. She goes, Sarah B's really strong. And I go, I don't know who Sarah is. And you came up to the booth later, and I look at you and I go, oh, that makes sense. Yeah. That checks out. Your arms are bigger than half the guys there. Like you just incredible. And one thing I've noticed is that arm wrestlers pose different than like for the normal flexing bicep. So I want you to go into this a little bit. So long story short, that's how I knew who you were. Yeah. And then I look you up online and I see all these flexing pictures like this. And you're curling the wrists.
Right. So we want to show off the size of our forearm.
Is that
That's our pride, right?
Okay. I was wondering, because you think of normally like the big fighters, they do this. And you guys are all interesting.
So like the way we flex, it's like if the camera's here, like I want to like make it look pregnant.
Oh my God, it does though. Like in the best way possible. It looks like a seahorse.
Right.
Like, it looks like a pregnant seahorse.
And it kind of shows off this
I'm so
part
glad you think that's a
which
compliment.
is super important. So like, we just, this is what we want to show off.
That makes sense. So I look like you went, I'm pretty sure you won the Dinny challenge, which funny enough, I think kicked Charisse off the second time around.
No, I did not. I was 1 second short.
Was that it? Charisse is still the record holder? Okay.
Can you believe that? Like, so like unfortunate.
Oh my God. I didn't, I couldn't remember. And you guys were really close. I have to introduce you. Yeah. She was here early. She's actually texted me today. She's wonderful. You would love her.
Yeah. She's strong then.
She's very,
that was like
very
hard.
strong.
I had to dig deep to even hold it for as long as I did.
I didn't notice this until now, but I wonder if that was been a prerequisite for people on my show, as they had to have done the Dinny challenge. But you crushed it. Yeah. And so I'm like hearing these things about this Sarah B. I meet Sarah B. And I'm like, because at the time, I guess the girl didn't know that Backman was your name. Yeah. And then I more or less was like this. I think I started following you and I was like, this chick is awesome. Very inspirational, very, very knowledgeable. And then I was talking with a friend of mine who's a strong woman, and she's like, I told her about the arm wrestling. She goes, oh, she owns my gym. Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah,
like,
small world, right?
Of course you own this. So tell me about, Pro Gear is your gym.
Yeah, Pro Gear, yeah. So it's, and that's way fast forward, right?
Yeah, we jumped a bit.
Jumped a bit. But
so I guess we'll have to fill in that gap for me a little bit, how we got there too.
Yeah. So like I did arm wrestling hardcore pretty much full time. Like I dropped out of school early.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I moved to Bulgaria. Like crazy. And
you went hard.
Yeah, like at 16, like I dropped out of school. I wanted to be the best. And I became a world champion only 2 years into the sport. So like same, like another thing that just I felt this is my thing, this is my calling. Why else would this keep happening to me, right? So I went full force and I did it full time for 7 years, traveling the world, just competing. And I got opportunity after opportunity. And I got hired by WWE.
Oh, no way.
A lot because of my accomplishment within the arm wrestling. Yeah. Not having any prior knowledge or experience with wrestling. I didn't know what it was when I was introduced to it as a 20-year-old. But that required me to move to Florida, where the performance center is in Orlando. And long story short, got married to one of the wrestlers. We later got divorced, but I stayed in that town, went to the local gym, which is a hardcore, badass gym, right up my alley, loud music, no air conditioning, old school equipment. So I was a fan just from walking in. Right. But the gym owner, he was pretty charming. So So that's how that happened. Yeah, that's how that happened. And we have 2 locations now in the Hernando County.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations.
Oh,
I mean,
thank you.
that is, you're living so many, I won't even narrow it down to arm wrestling. So many athletes' dreams, right? Full send, went for it, world champion, backed up. Now you are, I guess, kind of getting the next generation into it, right? So you've got new arm wrestler. Do you do class? Like, if I'm like a 15-year-old that wants to get into arm wrestling, how does that even work?
Yeah. So what a great question, right? Because like in Sweden, there was a whole organization. It's an actual sport. Like you have to pay a fee and like it's all these things. Like, but here it's not like that. Like for years before I had the gyms, I would host it at my house. I would go to other people's house. To this day, people do that. They practice in their garage and stuff. I'm very fortunate to be able to offer arm wrestling classes in a professional setting at our gyms.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you get that environment and everything. If I need to show them type of homework, I can show them an exercise in the gym. Like it just goes hand in hand.
Right. That makes sense.
And it's easy to recruit new people to the sport because we host practice on Thursday nights and gym members are watching and they're intrigued, and we have recruited so many members that way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And like that opened their eyes for arm wrestling and everything. But yes, if you're a 15-year-old, we actually had one just yesterday that
nice.
Yeah, that we encouraged. He came to a tournament we hosted last week. He said, I want to start doing this, and yeah, show up. It's free. Like this is like a contribution to the sport. Like it wasn't free for me growing up because I had to pay for it, whatever, but we're very blessed to be able to offer free practices.
Yeah.
You know, you can support in other ways, buy a shirt, buy a drink, you know, support our facility and whatever.
Yeah.
Come to our tournaments. But as far as teaching arm wrestling, we take a lot of pride offering it as free.
That's so important.
Yeah.
So if you go to an arm wrestling tournament, is there any kind of federation?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different promotions.
Yeah.
Pretty saturated in Florida, but I would say our promotion, the Pro Gear Arm Wrestling, is the big one.
I mean, that's the one I saw at the expo.
Yep.
So, and the I love arm wrestling shirt you're wearing was everywhere. So
Yep.
I just assumed, I was like, wow, I can see arm wrestling, regular wrestling, like they all have this cool like niche, and they're so obtainable if you know where to look.
Yeah.
What does the training even look like though? Like I understand, I'm assuming grip strength. Like you said, people were climbing ropes in your first ones.
So like everyone are so different, but you really got to focus on your hand and wrist more than once a week, you know? Like, and I always say you need table time. You need to practice to be good at something. Like I always say, you can't become a good guitar player playing drums, right? You got to practice the sport. So arm wrestling also hurts. So because
I learned that, very quickly.
So a lot of people cannot do it once a week, even.
Is it because of your tendons?
Tendons take a long time to recover, right? But if you can make it at least twice a month, just for that table IQ, working the different pressures and everything, you can substitute a lot in the gym with different lifts. And general strength training too. Like you got to protect your shoulders. You got to do regular back exercises to like prime your body.
Yeah.
So
that makes a lot of sense. So that segues me so well, because I just saw you recently, you've been putting a lot of educational material online and on your own Instagram, and we're going to drop your info underneath in the description so people can follow you. But you just, I think, posted about tendonitis and your bout with it. And I think you said you've had it 4 times. I think I saw that you've had surgery. Yeah. So how do you train, recover, repeat? How does that process look for you at a person looking to be at a high level?
Yeah. So I definitely, it's not a sprint. It's definitely a marathon. And I've done trial and errors, and it's never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And we literally talked about it, me and my husband on the way here. Like we're so achy and it hurts, and like it's just you deal with it,
right?
You know, but you work around it.
Okay.
So, but in my case, diet is very important. I make sure I get a lot of protein because that is the only thing that can heal and regenerate new tissue.
Right.
So if you don't have that, like the body's just going to eat itself. You're going to take way longer to recover. But also be smart when you do train. Have a proper form, very important. Warm up. You know, it's a process. You can't just go in and expect to be max strong every training.
Right.
And each week looks different. Your best performance one week may look different than other weeks.
Okay.
So you need to like chill for a little bit too, and like And I'm guilty of that. Like if I don't lift the weight I had in mind that I was going to lift that day, I can beat myself up.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
I get it.
But if my max capacity, if I did my best that day, like it's going to pay off later on because I stayed consistent. Like I did not give up. I kept pushing. So like it's a lot of effort and consistency over time.
Yeah.
So like practices that I did years ago is what's paying off now.
Right.
You know, because it's like you build that foundation brick by brick. So it does not happen overnight.
And I feel like that's true for most sports, but I can imagine how one that like arm wrestling is so tendon dependent.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like if I am so I'll talk about strongman, for example. The nice thing about strongman, if I'm having trouble lifting a sandbag, there's so many muscles that come in. You got your biceps, you got your core, you got you're doing all these things, your upper back. It's not dependent on like a fail point. And so I've seen some incredible adaptive athletes that have done it with a arm or a leg. I've seen it from wheelchairs. So there are ways of working around it. I feel like if your wrist has issues in arm wrestling, you're kind of and I feel like you've kind of lost.
Well, we're also lucky. I always say this too. Most of us have two arms. So
it's a very good point.
Yeah. So
I didn't even think of that. Are you like ambidextrous? Or?
Yeah, sure. Like so, if one arm is down, go full send on the other. That's what I have done my entire for 18 years. Like I am so like knock on wood. Right now, for a couple months, I've been able to train very evenly both arms.
Okay.
But that's not common.
I didn't think that sounds like such common sense. Of course we have but I think like my left arm doesn't exist at the time. It's useless to me. Interesting. And so so it's not common to people mostly just train, like I'm assuming
most people are dealing with some type of issue or they have a match coming up and they just focus on the one arm leading up to the tournament because they want to like put all the energy into the one arm. But that's also going to result in pain and whatever. So we had a friend that had a super match for 3 months. He prepped. He's fried with his right arm now. But I literally told him yesterday that, well, time to work on the left arm.
Yeah.
You know, and it's true. Well. Like you're not out of the game. Like you just work on that.
Right. Yeah. How do competitions work then? Do you say, this is my name, this is my age and weight, and this is my arm I'm using?
Yeah. So we offer different categories depending on, what style tournament. But usually we offer an amateur division and a pro division. And so the amateur is if you're like kind of new, you may never have competed before, you compete a couple times, but you have never won. Like once you win an amateur competition confidently, it's time to move up to the pro. Like it's kind of like your guide.
Yeah.
As far as the pro, you may go against people that are good. Like you gotta go in for this. Sometimes like national world ranked people will show up, and I'm talking like Florida tournaments now, like US. If you go to the world championships and everything, they divide it even further. So like they have disabled classes, they have 10-pound increments for each weight class. They have sub-junior, they have youth, they have open, they have master, grandmaster, ultra grandmaster. Like
what is an ultra grandmaster?
Plus 70.
That is there's like 80-year-olds that are doing arm wrestling.
Yeah.
That is, I'm imagining like a hardcore, just like grizzly grandpa doing this and that.
They're strong too because tendon strength is something that comes over time, right?
Yes, and not enough people know that.
Yeah. So like we have a lot, that's the beauty with our sport too. We see a lot of people entering the sport in their 40s, 50s, and they have like long, fun careers.
Yeah.
They're part of a new community and found a new like spark in life because they have something to train for. Like it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I was just talking to a client this morning because he's strong. He's ex-military. He worked out 20 years ago. He's back. And so now I was like, hey, we need to get your connective tissue back to being strong because he's like, well, I can deadlift insert number here. And I'm like, that's great. But that's muscle. That's different. I was like, your sublayer is not prepared to do these things. And it just takes time. They're collagen based. They're not the same way you would grow a muscle is not the same way you get tendon strength.
Right.
That is really cool. Actually, I didn't even think so. There's a chance.
Yeah,
I think there's a chance for people looking at it.
Absolutely.
That is super cool.
Yes.
Well, I guess first off, so is Florida just like this hub for arm wrestling, or is it just coincidental because Florida's packed full of people?
Florida is, I would say, the best arm wrestling state.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a lot of high level arm wrestlers here.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that happened really. I know we have a lot of Russians down south and everything. And Russia is like, at least back in the day, known to be like the best arm wrestling nation.
Okay.
Now it's considered to be Georgia.
Really?
The country Georgia. But Florida is doing really well arm wrestling wise.
The U.S. needs to take it up a notch and so we can compete with the rest of the world. I wonder if it's because of people like you, right? And so birds of a feather, right? They see high level people, and so you tend to move to where the high level people are.
Maybe like I've struggled to recruit women into the sport.
Okay,
that's a whole different subject though. It's like pulling teeth. I think just the culture is so different here from where I'm from in Europe. You're taught from a young age that it's cool to be a strong woman. It's encouraged to where here. You see the stay-at-home moms. Nothing wrong with that, but you're like,
it's just different.
Yeah, but they expect to be provided, and it's just the culture. Yeah, and they're not taught to like strain.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I even see like if a woman comes to practice, and I'm like, okay, I need you to like. Full force, take a deep breath, and I want you to hit as hard as you can. And they can't even do that. Something is blocking them from like, I don't know if they're
tapping in.
Yeah, they're worried about how they're looking, or they just don't know. The nervous system is not connected from mind to muscle, how to like really go
like
to,
grind
fight
through it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when it gets hard, you don't stop. You keep pushing because that's what's going to make you stronger.
Yeah.
So that's a whole different thing.
But I think that actually is really true. So strong man and strong woman in the US, there's more of them, but it's huge overseas. And so there is something, and it could just be culturally, you look at Hollywood culture from, I've talked about this on other episodes in, like the 2000s where being skinny was great and, the thigh gap and blah, blah, blah. Like being strong only really became, I think, cool very recently.
Right.
And it's really encouraging because I'm seeing a lot of the kids I work with that are like, how do we get bigger quads? How do we get bigger like, shoulders are in right now for women, and I'm loving it.
Yeah.
But that's new. And so I think women in their, I'd say like 30s, 40s, 50s really suffered because they were in those formative years when, being like tiny and dainty was important.
Right.
And so that would absolutely make sense. And then I look at sports overseas. I mean, we also talked before about rugby and how rugby's huge and women's rugby is huge overseas, and here it's not. So like kind of the more aggressive sports. I will say fight sports do well in the US, and I think that's really just because the UFC really did a great job at bringing it to the public. Overseas, you have had Bellator, etc. But the US, and then Invicta is the women's fights. I call it circuits that's here, and those women are badass. But it's, again, new. And so new in the grand scheme.
Sure.
How can I help you recruit women? This is the coolest thing. Like what messages, like how do you, when you're talking to, I don't know if it's teenagers or young women or you say masters or older women as well. How do you show that it can be done? So
where I'm from in Sweden, they have the most close-knit women. Like when you look at female arm wrestling, Sweden has the best women. They mass produce them, and they're all blonde, beautiful, super strong,
there's
badasses.
Cool.
It's like really stereotyped at this point, but it just keeps happening. Like why we keep seeing it, right? Yeah. And they travel from place to place, and they cheer each other on, and they have camps and group like weekends where they train together. So like, I'm thinking about maybe start hosting something where. Well, we have the gyms. Yeah. The only thing is, how can we? It's expensive to fly. Like it would be a commitment from them. Yeah. But a serious athlete would do it.
They do. They absolutely do.
So they would probably take advantage, and maybe I can fly in a Swedish girl, one of my friends, and we can like just talk about this. How can we make it cool? Like, do we need to wear the same T-shirts, and so we have like a team feeling? Like, what do you need to do?
Create community around it. Community does well, and I think for getting females into sports, the community-driven aspect is huge. Guys are too, but guys, I mean, telling a guy go join an arm wrestling team, they'll probably be like, "Hell yeah, bro!" Yeah. Like, I'm gonna go do that.
And
women go, "What?"
It's true, because every week we have at least one new beginner and they found it somewhere, YouTube, and they Googled it, and they just show up.
Yeah.
It does not happen like that with women.
I believe that
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
But you said Pro Gear it's not just arm wrestling, so it's a gym.
It's
So
a
you
gym
kind of
gym.
can pull from
That's
the
true.
people
Yeah.
there. Or-
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Mhm.
So from it, I'm still trying to wrap my head around, like, talk me through the technique of all things, like arm wrestling in general. So like, let's say I know we've talked about the tendons, we talked
Mhm.
about the biceps and whatnot. Is there a way that people who are like kind of interested in the idea that they can go for resources to learn more about
Mhm.
technique? Is there some grand YouTube channel that tells them everything? Like,
For
where
sure.
do people go to find more about
Yeah.
this?
So the one if you're brand new, you know nothing but need to start somewhere, I would go to Voice of Arm Wrestling. That's a
Okay.
YouTube channel. It's Coach Ray, who
Okay.
is globally known, and he's very fluent in several languages. But he has these courses and also just free content on YouTube that you can literally study. And he's going over every technique. He breaks everything down.
Yeah.
That would be my best, to get started
Okay.
for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to wrap it up. But I've got to kick to the stuff that you're putting on your own channel. So are you trying to put out more? Again, I've seen more educational content. I've seen you post about your experiences. Where do you think your next step is? Are you going to go try to be more of a voice within the sport? Are you going to open more gyms, compete?
Yeah. So, great question, right? That's questions I'm still trying to figure out myself.
Yeah.
But there was a time where I had won everything I could, and I felt content.
Yeah.
And I took a long break from arm wrestling, came back, and the level always keeps pushing, right? So when I came back, it was a shock. I tore my shoulder in my comeback match. It set me back, right?
Oh, no.
But I'm also grateful for that, because it put me in a different, I learned a lot, you know, where the level is now, but also how to deal with an injury and how to work the other arm and whatever. Everything happens for a reason. But I have a new sense of I need to reprove myself.
Right.
So I'm not done competing.
Cool.
And I'm ready. I'm strong. I'm in good shape. So I have things lined up. So you will see me compete this year.
Good.
But I also feel a responsibility, and happily so, to just be a face, to show arm wrestling, to guide others.
Right.
So if that's what's required of me, if that's what God wants, I'm totally fine with that. You know,
Yeah.
use me however He sees fit, right? But I'm fine either way. But I don't think I'm done competing yet.
More to come then.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be watching, and send me, your dates.
Absolutely.
I will come if I
Yeah.
can, and I will be in awe because you're not going to catch me on the stage.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah,
I
thank
really
you.
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. We'll talk more maybe after the comeback tour.
For sure.
That sounds good.
All right.
All right. Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you.